In 1801, a scientific experiment called into question everything we thought we knew about reality. Known as the double-slit experiment, it revealed something so extraordinary that it deeply shook the conventional view of the nature of existence. Since then, even though we are surrounded by technologies developed thanks to its implications, we continue to resist its deeper meaning. The revolutionary idea that the mind can directly influence the physical world. The double-slit experiment is a landmark in the creation of quantum mechanics, which is the scientific confirmation of an ancient Hermetic principle, the law of mentalism, which states that all is mind. By demonstrating how consciousness affects the behavior of matter at fundamental levels, this discovery invites us to enter the rabbit hole into the mystery of reality creation. Welcome to one of the greatest scientific and spiritual revelations of humanity. Today you will understand in a clear and scientific way what the axiom "all is mind, the universe is mental" really means, and how your mind is capable of shaping the world around you. In 1801, Thomas Young, one of those rare geniuses who mastered multiple fields of knowledge, aimed to resolve a debate that divided scientists at the time. Was light made of particles, as proposed by Sir Isaac Newton, or waves, as suggested by other thinkers like Christian Huygens? To answer that, he devised a simple yet incredibly ingenious experiment. Young started with a light source, initially a candle, since electricity was not yet widely available. He directed the light through a small hole, creating a narrow and focused beam. This beam was then aimed at a barrier with two very narrow slits placed close to each other. Behind this barrier was a white screen where he could observe the result. If light were made of particles, like bullets fired from a gun, Young expected to see two bands of light on the screen, directly aligned with the two slits. However, what he observed was surprising. Instead of two bands of light, he saw an interference pattern made of multiple alternating light and dark bands, like waves on a water surface. This pattern indicated that light was not behaving like isolated particles, but as waves passing through both slits simultaneously. As the waves passed through the slits, they spread out and overlapped, creating regions of constructive interference, bright bands, and destructive interference, dark bands. Young concluded that light was, in fact, a wave, confirming the wave theory and challenging the dominant idea at the time that light was made of particles. Over 100 years later, when quantum physics began to take shape, scientists revisited the double-slit experiment, this time with more sophisticated equipment and using individual particles, like electrons and photons. They fired these particles, one at a time, toward the slits, and observed the result. The unexpected happened. Even when firing isolated particles, the interference pattern still formed on the screen. This suggested that each particle was somehow passing through both slits simultaneously, as if it had a wave-like nature, interfering with itself. But the real strangeness appeared when scientists installed detectors to observe which slit each particle passed through. The moment this measurement was made, the interference pattern disappeared, and the particles behaved as if they had only passed through one of the slits. This phenomenon revealed that the behavior of the particles changed, depending on whether they were being measured or not. In other words, the mere presence of an observer seemed to determine whether the particles acted like waves or particles. This phenomenon became known as the collapse of the wave function, a term coined by German physicist Werner Heisenberg, one of the fathers of quantum mechanics. Before any measurement, particles do not have a defined state. They exist in a state of superposition, where all possibilities are open. The famous thought experiment Schrödinger's cat illustrates this in a disturbing way. Until someone opens the box, the cat is simultaneously alive and dead. It's not that it's one or the other. It is both at the same time. But at the moment of observation, everything changes. The wave of possibilities collapses, and only one of them manifests. Reality crystallizes into a single path, while all other possibilities vanish as if they never existed. At the quantum level, reality is not fixed or predetermined. It exists as a sea of possibilities that only take concrete form when interacting with the observer's consciousness. This leads us to a disturbing question. What is the role of the observer in the universe? Human consciousness, seemingly so separate from the physical world, appears to play a fundamental role in the behavior of matter at the quantum level. However, Hermes Trismegistus gave us the answer long ago. All is mind. The universe is mental. In other words, consciousness is not an epiphenomenon of matter, but rather the fundamental substance from which all reality emerges. The double-slit experiment is just the tip of the iceberg of a revolution in understanding the nature of existence. Max Planck, after decades studying the fundamental nature of matter, came to a surprising conclusion. There is no matter as such. All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force which brings the particle of an atom to vibration and holds this most minute solar system of the atom together. We must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. This conscious and intelligent mind is exactly what Hermeticists have always called the All, the universal mind, of which all things are manifestations. Every quantum experiment confirms that we live in a fundamentally mental universe, where consciousness is the primordial force that organizes and directs energy into coherent patterns. But here is the most transformative aspect of this understanding. If reality is fundamentally mental, then you, as an aspect of the universal mind, possess a far greater power to influence your experience than you ever imagined. Every thought you hold, every emotion you cultivate, every intention you direct, is literally participating in the cosmic process of creation. The simple attention of the observer transforms what was a possibility into reality. In life, this means that whatever we focus our attention on grows and takes shape. When you focus your thoughts, energy, and intentions on something, whether it's a dream, a goal, or a relationship, you are literally shaping the direction your life takes. For example, if you focus your energy on problems, it's as if you are measuring or observing and strengthening that reality. On the other hand, if you direct your attention to solutions and possibilities, that's the reality that begins to take form. A person who is going through financial difficulties and spends all their time thinking about debt will only increase the debt more and more. But if the focus of attention is how to earn money to pay the debt, soon the solution would appear, the opportunity, the contact, etc. The double-slit experiment demonstrates that the universe is constantly in a state of potential, waiting for consciousness to collapse the possibilities into concrete experiences. You are not living in a fixed reality. You are navigating through an infinite ocean of possibilities, and your consciousness is the helmsman that determines which potentials manifest. Erwin Schrödinger, another father of quantum mechanics, came to this radical conclusion. Consciousness is a singular of which the plural is unknown. There is only one thing, and what seems to be a plurality is merely a series of different aspects of this one thing. This one thing is the Hermetic universal mind, experiencing itself through infinite individual perspectives. You are not separate from the universe. You are the universe knowing itself through your particular consciousness. When you understand that you live in a mental universe where consciousness is primary, everything changes. Your spiritual practices cease to be mere symbolic rituals and become precise technologies for working with the fundamental laws of reality. Your meditation is not just relaxation. It is conscious attunement with the universal mind. Your visualizations are not fantasies. They are acts of co-creation with the All. The law of mentalism is not just a spiritual or philosophical theory, but a principle that finds surprising support in modern science itself. When we observe how reality functions at the subatomic level, we realize that everything that exists is composed of vibrating energy, infinitely malleable, which responds directly to the observer's consciousness. This interaction between mind and matter was deeply explored by David Bohm, one of the most visionary physicists of the 20th century. For him, the visible universe is only the surface, the tip of the iceberg. Bohm proposed the existence of an implicate order, a hidden and interconnected plane where all things already exist in potential, waiting to emerge. He called this field the hollow movement, a living reality in constant creation, where everything is connected to everything. For him, what we call reality is just a temporary projection of this cosmic mind. In other words, we live inside a holographic reality, a matrix, but one much deeper than any fiction could imagine. The Hindus call it Vishnu's dream. Likewise, the ancient Hermeticists understood that everything we perceive with our physical senses is a temporary manifestation of the infinite mind of the All. The human mind, therefore, is not separate from the universe, but immersed in a vast network of consciousness. Wheeler's delayed choice experiment demonstrated something that completely challenges our linear notion of time and causality. In this experiment, the decision to measure or not measure the particle can be made after it has already passed through the slits, yet it still retroactively affects its behavior, as if the intention of consciousness operates outside conventional temporal boundaries. If you're not baffled by what I just described, it's because you didn't understand it. I suggest you listen again. It's as if you were watching a movie, and at the end, decided whether the main character would be a detective or a thief, and that choice changed everything he did during the film, even though the story had already happened. It sounds crazy, but that's what the experiment suggests. Reality, in the quantum world, is not fully defined until someone observes, even if the observation comes after the events. This experiment deeply echoes the Hermetic understanding that the mind operates in dimensions that transcend linear time. The Kabbalion teaches us about the mental planes, where past, present, and future coexist as aspects of a single mental reality. Stuart Hameroff and Roger Penrose propose that consciousness emerges from quantum processes in the microtubules of neurons. Their theory suggests that our individual consciousness is directly connected to the quantum fabric of the universe. Every thought, every intention resonates through this cosmic network of information. But there is something even deeper at work here. Physicist Henry Stapp argued that the collapse of the wave function is driven by conscious intention. It's not just passive observations that crystallize reality. It's intentional acts of consciousness. Your focused attention not only observes, it literally sculpts reality from the field of infinite possibilities. This is precisely the scientific basis for what Hermeticists have always taught about the power of the focused mind. When Paracelsus said, "Thoughts are real things," he was describing the same phenomenon that quantum physics now documents in the laboratory. This is the point at which the understanding of Hermeticism becomes profoundly practical. What once seemed like abstract mysticism or complex scientific theory now reveals its true purpose: to empower the conscious human being. Understand once and for all, life is not something that happens to you. It is something that happens through you. You are the channel, the field, the transmitter, and also the receiver. By realizing that we are co-creators of reality, we gain the power to consciously transform our lives. As Joseph Murphy well describes in the classic, The Power of the Subconscious Mind, what you think with feeling becomes your reality. This is not poetry, it's technique. If you keep repeating mentally, "I'm unlucky, nothing works out for me, I'm an anxious person," the universe responds like a mirror. It reflects exactly what you project, because your mind is the invisible mold of matter. But if you change the frequency of your thought, and more importantly, your feelings, something begins to reorganize. A person with a history of chronic illness begins to visualize every day with sincere emotion, their body functioning perfectly. They do not deny the symptoms, but focus on the image of vitality, repeating affirmations like, "My body is intelligent, it knows how to heal." This alters their internal chemistry, calms the nervous system, and over time even changes physiological markers. Science calls this the placebo effect. Hermeticism calls it mental creation. Someone who has always attracted destructive relationships decides to change the image they have of themselves. Instead of repeating, "No one loves me," or "I only get involved with the wrong people," they begin to nurture the idea that they are worthy of love, that they deserve respect. Over time, their actions, decisions, and energy change, and the people around them respond differently. The field changes because the transmitter changed. A person who grew up hearing that money is dirty, or spirituality and wealth don't mix, carries beliefs that sabotage their abundance. When they begin to see money as an extension of universal energy, a reflection of the value they bring to the world, their behavior changes. They begin to create, serve, offer solutions, and naturally, they receive in return. The universe responds to this new vibration. These examples are not cheap self-help. They are real mental alchemy. They are the conscious use of the mind to shape reality, exactly as the ancient Hermetic masters taught. And it is precisely for those who wish to go even deeper into this fascinating knowledge of universal laws that I created the book, The Master Key. In this book, the 7 Hermetic laws are explained with meticulous detail, offering the reader a true master key to unlock the deepest secrets of reality and apply these teachings to daily life, infinitely expanding their capacity for conscious creation. To close, as Niels Bohr once said, "If quantum mechanics hasn't profoundly shocked you, you haven't understood it yet." Thank you for watching.